Hi there. Welcome to the 100-Day Business Growth Challenge. And in this short video, I'm going to show you how to set up a business challenge using only tools that most people have available. And today I'm going to focus only on Google tools. So I assume that there's a portion of the world that uses Microsoft, a portion of the world that uses Google. I personally use both, but my focus today is using Google and specifically the Google Workspace. So I'm recording this video, and this video is about how we're going to set up the 100-Day Business Growth Challenge and how you can set up similar challenges like this in your business. Now, for the record, I recognize there are many ways of doing things. There's a level of perfection that we are not going to chase today. And the reason is today is about getting it done. We will worry about perfection later. And the reason we're doing that is not that perfection isn't a good goal, but the reality is it's highly unattainable and it also leads to procrastination. So one of the things I find in the 100-Day Business Growth Challenge is we're working at getting momentum. So you're going to have to be okay with done is better than not done. I think the saying is done imperfectly beats never finished perfectly every day. So we're going to focus on done. Now, full disclosure, this is one of the first times I've actually run with Google Meets. I am a diehard Zoom user, but I wanted to be authentic and I wanted to run this challenge as if I was brand new, just starting out. So you're going to see me fumble, stumble, learn things as we go. And so today, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a Google form that you can use with your business. And for the record, I believe that every local business can and should have some sort of course or class or program to help their customers get the best use out of their product or service. Now, full disclosure, my primary focus is on accountants or other professionals who serve local businesses. So we're going to talk a lot about how we can improve and streamline operations when we offer a service. Now, for the record, if you're in the product business, you can also benefit from some of these things. However, I'm going to share what I know. I'm going to show you what I do. I'm going to leave it open to interpretation, and I'm going to invite you to implement what works for you. Now, just as a side note, if you are a product business, the number one advice I would give you is to create content, whether it's an online course, a book, a workbook, anything like that, that helps your clients get the best use out of your product. So for example, if you're a car dealership, why not list, here's 5 ways to keep your paint job pristine. Here's 3 ways to get your glass clean. Things like that. So find problems that your customers might be coming back to you with and create educational content that helps them solve those problems on their own. Now, when it comes to professionals, and we're going to talk about accountants, when it comes to accountants, I firmly believe that the number one thing you can do to add value to your clients, your prospects, and yourself is to create an onboarding process. And what I mean by that is full well what questions people ask. People aren't creative. They're not going to come up with new questions. So ask the questions in advance and answer them for your clients. So for example, as an accountant, number 1 question, what are your fees? Number 2, what do I need to bring you? Number 3, when do I bring it to you? I promise you, your clients don't ask random, unique questions thousands of times over. They'll ask 10 core questions with 1,000 variants. So create, first and foremost, if you do nothing else based on what I teach, go to the drawing board, talk to your team, talk to your clients, and just say, what are the 10 biggest questions that we get over and over and over? And all you have to do is create a little document we're talking about Google Docs today. So you can create a document in Google Docs and basically just answer, here's our 10 most common questions, and here's how we answer them. And what that does is when somebody asks you a question, you can either copy and paste the standard answer, or you can send them the attached document when you first meet with them and say, hey, let's work together. Great. I'm going to send you a little document we have. It's our frequently asked questions, and hopefully it's of help to you. And by the way, that document can then become a way to build relationships with prospects. It can be a way to reconnect with clients, and it can be something you can share with your strategic partners or referral partners so that they know exactly what you do and what working with you looks like. So if you do nothing else, a 10 question and answer document is incredibly valuable for the people in your community. And by the way, that content can easily become social media posts. It can become things on your website. It can be blog articles. Focus on answering the big questions that people have when they come work with you, because that builds loyalty and adds value to your community. So going off on that, I'm going to start this. And what I'm going to do for everybody watching is we're going to create a business from scratch over the next 100 days. Now, to be clear, I have the idea in my head, so I know what the idea is going to be. So it's not 100% from scratch, but really, truly, it's from the whiteboard to reality in under 100 days, or 100 days or less, basically. So you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's going to be some false starts. There's going to be some things that work, some things that don't. All I can promise is I will share everything, and you can decide what you take away from that. The reality is there is a lot of information. I'm going to try and distill it to 5 to 10 minutes a day, because I recognize that the accountants of the world, you're busy, you've got billable hours, you've got client deadlines. So my goal is to help you reduce the time you spend on administration and things that maybe aren't in your wheelhouse, so that you can focus on things like growing your practice. Now, there's an old saying, I wish I could attribute it to somebody, but they talk about in the accounting world, there are finders, binders, and grinders. And just because it rhymes, it does make it helpful, but it's also actually a pretty decent breakdown. The finders are those relationship people. They're also called rainmakers. They love going out, they love meeting new clients, and then they bring them back to the firm, and then they like to hand them off to the binders and the grinders. And the binders are the natural, they're a little bit less outgoing. They want to stay at their desk, but they're really good at building relationships with the clients and keeping them. So without a finder, you're going to have a lonely binder and grinder sitting there ready to work. Without a binder and a grinder, you're going to have a finder. Finder who is really popular but can't get anything done. So I believe that every good accounting firm should have a balanced mixture of finders, binders, and grinders. Now, of course, the grinders, these are the people that every accountant aspires to be, or maybe we should aspire to be. I'm not sure which. But basically, they're the ones who love filing tax returns, preparing financial reports. They love their spreadsheets, and they're happiest when you just leave them alone and let them think. So again, a good accounting practice has the right mix of finder, binder, grinder. So, and by the way, it's not a one-to-one-to-one. It really depends on the size of the firm and various things. But if you were to have a partnership with 3 partners, at least one of you or a third of each of you needs to be a finder, a binder, and a grinder. Now, as I see larger firms, really truly, you need 1 or 2 finders for every 3 or 4 binders, and for maybe 10 grinders. So the reality is, again, it's not a perfect ratio, but you'll want to figure it out. So Over the next 100 days, we are going to create a program that helps accounting firms offer cash flow management to their clients. We call it Cash Flow Club. That is the resources we have. We'll share more details on that. However, today is about just getting started and setting up. So when it comes to helping your clients, again, I'm assuming you use Google Workspace. This is the whole point of today's video. We might, if we have time, do other videos on other platforms. But again, this is the 100-day challenge. The goal is done rather than perfect. So today we're just going to get started. And like I said, you can spend hours perfecting this. We're not going to do that today. So first things first, I just wanted to introduce you to Google Drive. And if you use Google Workspace, I hope you're familiar with Google Drive. What we do is we have a shared drive called Courses. And again, if you're in Office 365, you're welcome to adapt this. I'm going to show you how to do this on Google. So basically, what I do is for every course, I create a folder. So we will create this new folder called the 100-Day Business Growth Challenge. And then what I do is I create a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a Google Slide, and last but not least, a Google Form. Now, you can do whatever works for you, but for me, I always call this the logistics document. Okay. And then this is a tracking. This is a presentation. And then this is, now we call that intake, I hope. Can't see what's behind that. We'll come back to that. Now, if we just refresh, give it a second, you'll see we have our intake, our presentation, our tracking, and our logistics. Now we're going to have a second form, and this form is going to be this will be accountability. So I'm not going to complete all of this today. I just wanted to show you that I have 5 documents here. And so I'm going to show you how to create an intake form, because that's actually a pretty good starting point for client onboarding and things like that. So if you were an accounting firm, what I would do is I would have my Google Doc and I would create top 10 questions for new clients, and then just go question 1, and then put the question there. And then answer. And literally, it's great with Google because what you can do is either you can go file, where is it? Print, and you can print it to PDF right here, save as PDF, and then you can send it to people. Or if you want, you can go over here to the share, and you can make this, anyone with the link can view it, and then you can copy the link, and then you can actually send people access to the document itself. And personally, I like the PDF for reasons. I like the document for reasons. With a PDF, it's locked and it's a snapshot at a moment in time. So if somebody refers back to it, they can say, oh, version, April 2024, here's what it said. That works well. Now, with a document, all they have to do is click the link, and you can just say, bookmark this link on your web browser. They can come back at any time, and they'll always get the most accurate and current answer. So, this is my number one thing for a professional service firm: create a client onboarding experience. So the experience should include, as I show you, a document. It might include slides. It might include some intake forms. It might include a project management tool or a tracker. And for the record, I'm well aware you can have more complicated things. I'm well aware you can show other things, but for today, we're going to keep it very simple. Right. So this is what I normally do. And by the way, I really like the built-in styles. So top 10 is my title, question 1 is heading 1, and that's it. Now, again, you might want to put in a table of contents. That's really easy to do. You just go to insert table of contents. There you can see our heading 1s. Oops, sorry, heading 1. And they've got built-in styles for 3 headings that are easy. Then you can add and create other styles. But usually I use title, subtitle, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and normal text. So if you set your text at normal, you can always update it. You can use it. But there we go. So this is really, really simple. So one of the things I always do is for the team, and because this is going to be an ongoing project, so I'm going to make this viewer. I'm going to copy the link. So here we have the spreadsheet. I'm going to do more with this over time, but I just want to show you a little bit about what I do. So let's say I've got logistics to the challenge here. And then, so I can close those two. And we're going to go through this in way more detail. So this becomes, so we're going to send this form. And what I like about this particular thing is it's got a URL shortener. But because this is our edit, we're going to put this in here first. And now, for some reason, Google doesn't always allow this pretty little short thing. So this is our intake. And this is our accountability. Okay. So there. Yeah. And the reason I put all these links in my logistics is I can this here. And then I can close all these other ones, and then I can come back later and go back to them if I want. So what I'm going to show you is how to set up a basic intake form. And in others, I'll show you how to do a little bit more detail, but today I want to keep this short. So Google Forms is one of my favorite Google tools. I love Google, the Gmail part of it. I love the calendar, but I really love the simplicity of the tool. The Forms tool because it allows me to send things. I can put this on my website, I can put it other places. It allows me to gather data without getting fancy. So I think this is a good place to jump in. And like I said, over the next 100 days, I'm going to be building all of the pieces of our 100-day challenge. And the beautiful thing about the way this is laid out, any accountant, you can copy this, you can do this yourself. You can apply something different, but you can adapt it to yourself. But the beautiful thing is, with the 100-day challenge, it opens up so many doors. And so, as an accountant, for example, maybe you want to add a 100-day bookkeeping challenge or a 100-day something, whatever you're good at, use challenges to help your clients. Now, the reason I picked 100 days is because of the book, The 100-Day Goal Journal by John Lee Dumas, and the subtitle is Accomplish What Matters to You. In my humble opinion, too many businesses, especially accountants or including accountants, we get busy doing a whole bunch of things and we never stop and plan and say, what's the most important thing I need to do today to be able to succeed next month? So, what I like to do, and as an accountant, I encourage you to do this, I like to run at least 3 100-day business growth challenges a year. And what that does is, number one, it keeps your clients engaged. It shows them that you care about them. Number two, it makes referral partners. It makes it so much easier for them to bring people to you because they can say, hey, Jeff's accounting firm has this. You should go talk to them. And number three, it helps people immensely. The world doesn't recognize it, but really, truly, success only comes if we have a good, clear goal, if we have a plan to accomplish the goal, and we have the discipline to do the things we need to do to get to that goal. So imagine, instead of being the accountant who just worries about the year-end accounts, what if you're the accountant that helped local businesses survive and thrive? So I encourage you to adapt this to your own. I personally love business growth, so my challenges are all usually focused on business growth. Yours will be different. And as I said, I'll put a link, but the 100-Day Goal Journal by John Lee Dumas, Dumas, is one of my favorite tools. And for the accountants of the world, I'm just going to say this, it costs about $20 a book, but just imagine you give that book to your clients and you show them how to use it and you help them get results. They will value you forever. They will refer you more. They'll stay with you longer and they will pay you more. So that's the goal, is we want to onboard our clients and we want them to be happy with us. So let's jump in. This form is really going to be simple. I'll show you the functionality and then we'll get into more detail in other ones. So first things first, the title of your file is by default the title of your form. So we're going to put a little description. Okay. So here's what we will do. So we put a little description. Please sign up if you would like. Okay, we're not going to get into hows of emails yet, but we will. So basically, this basic form, I'm just going to show you. There's some add-ons. I rarely use them, so I'm not even going to get there. You can customize your theme if you like. You can set your text. You can have a color image if you want. You can change the background. Again, done is done. So Jeff's version is good enough. Now, if you really want to see what this looks like, you can click on the preview. And as you'll see, this is what the form literally looks like. I'll show you how to share it and things like that. You can undo, redo, and then when you're happy with it, you hit this send button, and you can either send it via email, so you could list emails and addresses, and it says, I've invited you to fill out a form, or you can customize that. You can send the form in an email. I rarely use email just because mine are usually shared other ways. So you can create an embedded HTML for your website. Highly recommend that if you're using your website as your home base. Usually what I do is this is shared somewhere or with someone. So I will just give them the link, and you can see I clicked shorten URL and I'll hit copy. And then when I go to this, I can send this link to somebody else and they get this. So I'm going to close that. Now, that's really the big important thing. Now, if you've got one you like, you can make a copy. You can get other things like this. You can add collaborators. I don't get into the details too much because I just use it very simple. Now, the number one thing before we get into the questions, or sorry, after we get into the questions, we need to fill out the response piece and we can check some settings. But the number one thing is let's get our questions done. So you'll see here that first things first, they have to have a valid email. Very important. Now you can change the settings here. And so here, email addresses, I use responder input, and I like to send somebody a copy of their response, just good use. I like to hit editing. You see it jumped us to settings. And this is important. You have to turn off the restriction. Otherwise, only people with your email can do it. And I'm generally going to limit them to one response. So I'm going to allow them to edit their response. Now you can have a progress bar. You can shuffle questions. You can have a confirmation. You can give them a link to another response. You can show them the results. And that's really, then you can set, what your defaults are, things like that. So I usually make questions required by default. If they're not required, why am I asking them? So coming back to questions, what I love is you just click and Google immediately gives you a choice. So you can import questions from somewhere else. You can create a title and description. You can add an image. You can add a video. You can add a section so you can break it up. I'm not going to get into all of those features. I'm going to focus on the questions. So the most important thing is you put your question here. What do you want to ask? And then you pick the type of question you have. So short answer, paragraph, those are self-explanatory. Multiple choice, they pick one of. Check boxes, they can pick all that apply. Drop down, they sort of pick one thing. I like this because they can upload a file if you allow it. There's a linear scale, so they can pick on a scale of 1 to 5. You can give them a grid, you can give them a checkbox, or you can give them a date or time. Mostly, I stick with either the short answer or paragraph on my first round. I'll use more of these others going forward. So first question I always like to ask, how did you hear about our 100? Now, the reason I ask that, and technically I could do short answer, I like to give them paragraph because why not? But what this does is it allows me to track where things come from. So now I come over here, put the next question. What is the one thing? Okay. And I'm going to keep this short just for the interest of the video. The final question I would have, and see it defaulted to paragraph. What do you think might be? Okay, so this is a very short. Um, okay, why is important? Okay, so basically, that's a very short form. I don't want to get too detailed, but basically, you can come back, you can edit this anytime from your Google Drive. And here, the last thing before we shut it down is we want to collect responses. And so there's two things. Number one, if you're done with it and you've closed it, you can shut it. And that means nobody can respond. And it says that when somebody goes to the link. We want it to be accepting responses. The other thing is we want it to collect our responses in Google Sheets. So we click on this little three dots here, and we can say if we want email notification. I personally don't like email notification, so I don't turn it on. But what I want to do, if you want to get notifications or you have an admin person, you can put them to get notified. So that I've notified it. I'm going to unnotify myself. But the thing we're looking for here is to select destination. Now, if you've already set up a spreadsheet, great. I never do. I always allow it to create a new spreadsheet and I call it really creative responses. And of course, with the form name before it. So when I hit create, watch this magic. Now this changed to view in sheets, and this is where it's magic. It took all of my questions and it turned them into columns in a spreadsheet. So when somebody fills it in, I'll get a timestamp, I'll get their email address, and I'll get their first answers here. Now, I should put, just because this is the way good surveys work, um, okay, so first, what is your first name? So I always ask, okay. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete that. Maybe. I think I need to close it. There we go. Okay, so let's move that to trash. Okay. So coming back to the form, we got first name, last name, then our questions. So responses. Okay, there we go. You can edit and fix the sheet, but given that we're just starting, here's what I'm going to do. We'll redo it. Now we view in sheets and oh, wait a minute. Okay. Questions. What is your first name? Okay. Okay. So there we go. So let's fix that. And let's do that again. Okay. So we're going to select destination. Okay. So now this is magical. Okay. I clearly did something it doesn't like, but let's just pretend. Okay. So now if somebody comes here, so we preview this, they fill this in. Oh, wait. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry. User error. We can't fix that. And I wish I was smart enough to want to record or re-edit the video. But basically, you see, first question is, how did you hear? What is your first name, last name? Now, this is just me being picky. What I like to do is format the text so that, wrap the text so that it wraps. And now, and again, I'm old school. I like my headings bold. You can make these a little wider if you want. You can format them, but basically, just to make it simple. Okay, so now as everyone fills in this form, we've got their basic data here. So now we can send them private messages, we can send them content. But the next step in this is, what is your onboarding process? So you might have a questionnaire. What questions would you like to ask them before they book their first call to meet with you? We're going to go through a lot of this in great detail. I promise you this is the longest video because I wanted to cover a lot of things, but this is now, we close this, we close this. So now we've got, this is a preview. So let me come back to this. By the way, if you don't like the order, you can just click on here and drag it. I'm not going to mess with this because I'm happy with it. But as I said, you would click here, you can hit the send form and you'd copy. So as an example, here, and basically I put the link and here it is. So now if somebody asks me, how do I sign up? I just tag them here and say, hey, so-and-so, thanks for asking. Here's where you sign up. So as you can see, really simple. And I promise you, you'll figure this out over time. It's a really great way to build relationships and to get to know your clients. And basically, it builds this us mentality, it builds community. So instead of being the accountant who costs them money, you're the accountant who brings them together with other entrepreneurs. And by the way, if you didn't know this as an accountant, the number one thing I hear with struggling entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners is I feel so alone. So as an accountant, you sell them peace of mind, not your time. And if you can bring them a community, they will stay with you forever. More importantly, they'll bring their friends. So if you want to be more referable, if you want to grow through networking and connections, set up little challenges. And again, my challenge is focused on growth. You tailor the challenge to what you'd like your clients to tackle. In the old days, when I actually was doing accounting, my number one challenge was bad bookkeeping. So my challenge might be, a 100-day bookkeeping cleanup challenge, 100-day cloud accounting transformation challenge. Find fun things that really, truly, and I say this sincerely, the things that bother you about your clients, find a way to turn it into a challenge to help them solve problems. So that's the extent of this. I will be doing more videos like this, but I just wanted to show you how I set up a challenge. So thank you, and I look forward to your feedback.